Hey everyone, happy Sunday to you. I hope all is well. I've graded your DBs on the biopsychosocial model. Again, same as in 1300 or 1305, really good. A couple things that need to be tightened up, but not, they're very minor. But you do need to follow the instructions, and it's very clear that what the requirements are. With you got to respond to two peers and blah blah blah. I'm not going to run down all that. You can read the syllabus and the instructions for that. But really good job. APA is on point for everybody. There's some minor, silly minor things like not even worth mentioning in the video. But I did give you individual feedback if it helps. You can always reach out to me if you need further help or any questions or anything at all. Please don't hesitate to reach out, guys. But overall, great job. I really enjoyed reading your thoughts on the biopsychosocial model. One of you noted that it got you thinking outside of the box. And I love that because, we're so quick to put everybody in a box. And this is what substance use looks like. That's a mistake for a counselor, right? And so, but it's very easy to get caught up in that. And well, this is usually the case. Well, it might be usually the case, but maybe not be the case for this person. So we must treat people individually. So great insight. Great job on that thought. Another person mentioned, something along the lines of they assumed at one point that, a substance use disorder is a bad person trying to get good. So again, wonderful insight that you were able to see that and say that's not the case at all. Now, I mean, do you have your handful of knuckleheads, as I like to say, that people will be Sure. That's with any sector of life, any whether it's substance use, whether it's just whatever it is, any part of life, you have knuckleheads that are just going to do what they do regardless. But most of the people, when I say most, I'm talking about upper 90 percentile if I had to put a number to it. 97, 98, 99% maybe even, honestly, are great people. They just have a substance use disorder and that affects their behavior. So they can't access most of that good person due to that hijacking of the brain, as we learned in the biopsychosocial model that happens, right? I love the biopsychosocial model. It explains so much to me. And for me, it makes sense, right? And to quote Judge Judy, if it doesn't make sense, it's probably not true. I love that. This makes sense to me. It's relatable. It gives me an explanation as to why there's not one cure, why there's not one fix-it-all, where it all comes from. I don't know where it comes from. Part of it's genetics. We do know that. Research is pretty solid in that. But there's so much with my environment, and each of our environments are different from our family of origin, neighborhoods we grow up in, the way market, our psychology, the way that marketing affects us. It's really, man, there's a lot there, but it explains so much that makes sense to me. So I love that model, right? So great job on your first DBs. I really, good job overall. So, remember to use two resources on your first post, on your original post. I'm going to get a little more strenuous with the grading next time. So follow the instructions carefully. The requirements are original post due Thursday with two resources cited in your work, and at the bottom, your textbook must be one resource. Saturday, do two replies to your peers, 100 to 150 word count. One resource. It can be your textbook. I would encourage you to use your textbook, but it can be anything. Why reinvent the wheel? Just use your textbook. So that now in your original post, one has to be your textbook. So that said, moving on. This week's your first paper. APA writing still counts. Follow the guidelines if you want all the points. Use your APA format. It must be Times New Roman. Look, I'm not going to run down all that. All that's in the syllabus and in the video. If you have a question, reach out. You can read those instructions. They're written very clearly. So anything less than 2 pages, you're going to lose 20 points right off the bat. That's a significant amount of points to lose for something that you don't have to. 1 3/4 is not 2 pages. So keep that in mind. Just a little FYI there. It's all written in the syllabus and in the instructions. So I keep saying I'm not going to spend time there, and I keep going over it. So I'm going to stop here. Let's talk about 12-step work. Again, if you're in a 12-step group of any kind, AA, NA, CA, AAA, MBA, I don't care where. Kidding about the MBA and AAA, but then go to a different group you've never been to. If you're a member of AA, go to Al-Anon or ACA. Find out what those family groups are like. If you're a member of NA, go to AA or go to Al-Anon or Nar-Anon or ACA. Adult Children of Alcoholics. Go to a group a program you've not been to. Will I ever know? Of course not. This isn't about me. As we learned from Jamal in 1305, ethics matter, right? And I'm counting on you to use your ethics as a clinician. That's what we have, right? And so use your ethics, do the right thing. I'm asking you to go to a different program. If you've never been to any program, go to anyone you want, right? AA, NA, CA. Again, there's all listed in the LCDC resources tab, or you can just Google it. I don't care if it's in person or online. I did a brief video last week, in case you went early, talking about kind of some do's and don'ts, like don't take notes. That's not a good look. Make sure you go to an open meeting. You don't have to talk. You can just say, I'm here to listen if you're ever called on, or you can share if you choose to share. Up to you. But be nothing but respectful in their place. That's it. Just be respectful of their norms. You don't have to like it. You don't have to agree with it. Just be respectful. You'd want someone to be respectful at your place, right? So do the same for them. That said, so let me tell you a little bit about 12-step work if you're unfamiliar. 12-step work, 12-step AA is the grandfather, so to speak, of all of it. They were the ones to start the 12-step model in the 1930s. I believe 35 to be exact. Then their big book came out in 1939. It was started by Dr. Bob Smith and Bill Wilson, all right, Bill W. He met Dr. Bob. The two started trying to tell people how to stay sober. Or Bill W. Let me back up. I got that kind of messed up there. Bill W. started telling people, he got sober. And he started telling people, you got to do this, this, and this for about 6 months. And no one person stayed sober. No one. He met Dr. Bob Smith, and the two started doing what they called sharing their experience, strength, and hope. Hey, we this was what worked for us. Maybe you'll try. A program is born, AA. Now, I think there's over 200 plus, well, I know there is over 200 plus programs that use the word anonymous in the title or the 12-step model. That's the significance of it, right? So the idea is they follow what we call the medical model, the disease concept. You have this disease. When you ingest alcohol or other substances, it hijacks your reward center in your brain, which is the same way a survival instinct does. That's the power in it, which is insane to me, right? That's a thing. And that you lose power of choice and control, and your life gets pretty out of hand pretty quickly. And I think that's the case for many of us. That said, you come to this group, you admit this powerlessness and that your life's this unmanageability, acknowledge that, hey, I got a problem, right? You come through, you find a higher power, they called it. Now, originally in the original manuscript, it was God. Bill W. crossed that out because he wanted to be all-inclusive. This program came right out of the Bible. If you look at the history from the Washingtonians and the Oxford groups, that's where this program kind of derived from in the step work. It came out of the Bible, right? But they'll tell you they separate spirituality and religion, but yet close with the Christian prayer. So the Lord's Prayer, which is a Christian prayer. So it's a little misleading, or it's a little contradictory, but that's okay. It's a solid way to live. It's a solid program. At the end of the day, the principles behind the program are just be a good human, right? Take accountability of your actions, treat others well. When you make a mistake, make it right and work with others, right? But you find this higher power, you lean on that, you come to these groups for support, you do some really looking within at some step work, step 4, a fearless and moral inventory. You look at people you've harmed. You look at people you have resentments against. Then you look at your part in all of those things, which is the best piece in my opinion, right? Because we all have a part in everything we do, even if it's just something I've held on to. I can't control someone else doing me dirty in some way. I can control how I react to it, and I can control how I hang on to it for years. So I owe myself an amends. Maybe they have an amends process, right? You go through, you have this process. You get support from these groups and you work with others. It's a wonderful way to live, right? I'm very familiar with it. I sobered up 16 plus years ago in AA. I'm very familiar. That said, it's not for everybody. And going to these meetings is not about you liking it, disliking it. It's irrelevant to me, honestly. Because it's about you being familiar with them. And you should refer to these programs regardless of your personal thought. Lots of people have resentment against AA. I have a love-hate relationship with it myself, right? It's not about me. It's about my client, what they're willing to do. So I always get a kick out of that every semester when students are like, well, I wouldn't refer to this one. I didn't like it. It's not about that, right? You should refer to all of them, because I want you to hear me on this. You're going to hear me say this over and over and over throughout this semester. They are all good programs. Every one of them are good, solid programs. They're just not always a good fit for every individual, and that's okay. One program does not have to be bad for another to be good. Hear me on that. One does not have to be bad for another to be good. And I think we're very quick in our society to measure that way, right? Well, this one's good, so this one must be bad. AA doesn't have to be bad for NA to be good. AA doesn't have to be bad for SMART recovery to be good. SMART doesn't have to be bad for AA to be good. They're all good. Every one of them are good. They're just not always a good fit. And it's not up to me if it's a good fit for your client. What is up to me as an LCDC is to learn about these programs, this is why we're going. If you're already a member, I'm really asking you to do something. It's a little bit difficult, doable for sure. I'm asking all of you really to wear 3 hats when you go to this meeting. I'm asking you to look as a student from that perspective, right? Take it all in. I'm asking you to look as a client, like, what do you think a client's experiencing through here? And I'm also asking you to look at it as a professional. How do you think this will help my client, right? So I need you to look through all 3 of those lenses through this process. Right. And it's absolutely possible. And so there's that. If you're a member, it's a little more challenging because you're programmed, pun intended, to think a certain way about recovery. And if you remember, I said in the very beginning, I was going to challenge what you think about recovery or what you think you know or already know. And we're going to start shifting thought from a recovery member to a clinical perspective. Right. And so where AA is very rigid in their thought, the 12-step model is very rigid. And if it's not working for you, then you're not doing it right. You're disconnected somewhere. You're unwilling. You're not into it, not doing it to your full potential, whatever. None of that may be true for somebody. It's just not there. It's not a good fit, and that's okay. Right? Sometimes I see a lot of people that go to AA that I just work with them through that process. We call it 12-step immersion, right? Or I call it integration, 12-step integrative model, right? I process with them, how do we take this program and its principles and apply it to everyday life? It's not 1930 anymore, right? So that said, it's a wonderful program. I hope you have a wonderful experience. Al-Anon is the family program for AA. So while the person with the substance use disorder will go to AA or NA's got a family program too called Nar-Anon, and Al-Anon is AA's family program. It's just for the family members. So and I'm just going to stick with AA because I don't want to have to clarify every single time. AA and NA, I'm talking about all of them, right? AA says that you are powerless over alcohol and your lives become unmanageable. I'm going to do it, I guess, anyway. NA says you're powerless over your addiction. Al-Anon says I'm powerless over my qualifier, which is the person drinking, the family member, the loved one, right? And then ACA is Adult Children of Alcoholics and Dysfunctional Families. And look, my hope for you is this. That's a wonderful program. My hope for you is this. I know you're busy. I know your school, jobs, families, all the same stuff we all have. Everybody's got it. No one's immune. I hope that whatever group you choose, you go to the others on your own. Because it is our job as LCDCs to be as knowledgeable about these programs as we can be. How do you get the best knowledge? First-hand experience. And I'll be honest, it takes more than one meeting to get that. You're barely scratching the surface. You may go to a great meeting. You may go to a terrible meeting. They have those too, right? That's not indicative of what a program is because you went to one group that wasn't a great group, right? I'd say go to 3 or 4 before you really make a decision on what your opinion is of it, right? I know that's asking a lot, but that's we're privileged to do this work and be in people's lives. So it is a lot, but a lot's expected of us because we're in this role. So educate yourselves on these groups. ACA can do more harm than good if you send somebody there that's not ready to do that work, in my opinion. But if you have somebody ready to do that work, it can be life-changing. Legit, check these groups out, get to know them, their norms. So speaking of that, that's what these papers are. Here's what I do not want, and this should be highlighted in your syllabus as well, yet every semester I get it, and there's not going to be a next time on this. You will lose points for this. I do not want a history of the programs. I know the history. I just gave you some of the history. Like, I don't want that. I don't want 2 paragraphs of, well, in 1930, Dr. Bob Smith and Bill Wilson founded AA. Yeah, I know. Right? I don't want any of that. I mean, if it's one sentence, fine, to support what you're saying, no problem. I don't want 2 paragraphs on what individual member so-and-so said. You're not here to tell me about what somebody said at the meeting. Here's what I want from these papers. Now, if you mention it, hey, so-and-so a member shared this, no problem. If it's in the flow of your thoughts in your paper, cool. That's okay, right? What I don't want is filling space, right, with a page of what Sally or Jerry said at the meeting, right? I want you to document your experience. What was it like looking for the meeting? What was it like during the meeting? Did you have any anxiety or any type of feelings about it, good or bad, positive or negative? Did something you say sit right or relatable? Was it resonate with you, or something that you heard you disagree with? Like, what are the norms of the group? Like, how is their structure, their process? What was your experience? That's what I want you to write about. If you're a member of these groups, you could write a paper on a million different meetings, right? There's characters at each one, and you know them all already. This is a new experience. You're going to be asking your clients to have a new experience because you're going to come across people who have been to 12-step meetings and don't want to go back. And you're going to encourage them to say, well, let's give this another try with a new pair of glasses, so to speak, right? Here's the potential benefits. You're asking them to do that. Maybe they've never been and they're scared. Look, again, I'm going to ask you, what would you tell a client? Because we all have families, we all have jobs, we all get sick. Everything humans do, right? We all do it. Our clients are no exception. We're no exception to that. So keep that in mind from that framework. What would you ask a client to do? But that's what I'm looking for in these papers, right? The directions are very clear about the formatting, Word document, Times New Roman, 12-point font, double spaced. You'll lose points for that. All those things are very easy to do. I have to assume by your work already you know how to do those because you did really good on the biopsychosocial DBs. So guys, I'm looking forward to reading about your experiences. I love this. If you need any help, if you have any questions, if you just want to chop it up about the 12-step model, the field of study or work, as I always say, I'm always happy to talk to you guys. So please, if you need any help, don't hesitate to reach out. I look forward to reading your papers. Make sure you're following those instructions to the letter. Again, reach out if you need help. Guys, I hope you have a great week, and we'll talk soon. Wait. Before I stop this, the following week is just a DB it's a summary of your paper, right? So it's super easy. Next week, you do it in a DB format, the 200 to 250 words. I don't want 700 words. Do not copy and paste your papers. Summarize your paper. Use the same resources. You're not rewriting the paper. Use all of the same stuff. Take a quote out of your paper. Summarize your paper. But that's it. You don't have to, it's nothing new. It's just summarize the work you just did. That's next week's DB. So guys, have a great week and we'll talk soon.